Hi you guys! I created this channel so that I could show you various tutorials on clothing and crafts such as this convertible dress, which we'll be working on today. So let's get started. For this tutorial you will need your fabric. How much we'll decide in the measurements section. Scissors, of course. Pins. The stretch needle, and I'm going to use a small gauge because of the fabric I chose. And then it's also going to be useful to have a piece of tailor's chalk, or any kind of chalk will work. So there's a couple important measurements to take. I want my dress to be an empire waist, so I'm going to go from side seam to side seam across my bust to measure how wide the convertible straps need to be. Okay, so these, we don't want any side boob unless you do, in which case cut them narrower. But we're making sure that these two panels cover the entire front of the bust. So this is why you need to know how wide you are from side seam to side seam. The next measurement you need is your underbust. This is where the waist is going to be. Keep track, you want your side seam to side seam, the underbust, or wherever the waist is of the dress, and then you need the length. Another measurement that you need is the width of the bottom of your skirt. Method 1. The first measurement here is A, which is your side seam to side seam divided by 2 plus your seam allowance. You'll want to cut at least 2 of these that become your convertible straps. If you need a little more coverage in the bust or more length to go around the body, cut 3 or 4 of them and then sew the extra to the original convertible straps. That'll give you a little bit more length. E here is the waistband. We'll discuss how wide the waistband needs to be in a minute. And then with the remaining fabric, once those pieces are cut, you can fold it in half again, put on one side. We see this is a mirror image. That's why I say you can fold it in half, or you can do it how I've drawn it, whatever suits you. B is your waist measurement. C is how long the skirt is, and then D is the hem width. So connect D and B, cut that twice, and then you have your skirt front and your skirt back. Method 2 is for a slightly more slender dress or a narrower hem. And so basically we're looking again at the fold and the selvage. And this time you would take the measurement A and cut straight down that side. An easy way to do that is to fold the selvage in 12 inches and then cut on that new fold. And then you'll have this contiguous piece that has the original fold line on it. The top becomes your waistband, and then you can draw in or fold over and draw on your B, the waistline, C is the length, and then D is your hemline. Cut those out and you have your skirt front and your skirt back. Placed a dress that I love how it fits on top of the fabric with the center front on the fold. And this is going to enable me to just run one seam up the back. And since I want it a little bit wider at the bottom than I have fabric for, that one seam is going to enable me to put a little insert, a little triangular insert in so that it's a little wider on the bottom. Now that the skirt is done, I have my skirt. It's 47 inches. And I've run one seam down the back. I made sure to match the stripes in a little bit of a chevron because I think that looks cool. And then I left the bottom open so that I could add some extra fabric in here to make it a little bit wider. Some of these that I cut off might be perfect to fit in there, and maybe change directions or, you know, whatever, be creative. My waistband is 28 inches, so I need to take 3/4 of that waist measurement for the waistband. When you use a waistband that's the same material as the dress, 3/4 is the standard for how long it is. So I'm going to take this and cut it at 21 inches. On the fold, I want to use the fold so that I have one seam and it's this stretchy little band. I have 21 inches here, which is, you know, I actually have 22, so I have 11 inches. And I'm going to serge the open edge right here. So I also want to show you this little trick that I learned in sewing school for putting waistbands together. So you take the right side of this strip, put right sides together, folded long ways. Make sure the stripes are matching up. And then fold it once lengthwise in half. Now when you serge this edge, it's going to unfold and the seam will all be interior. The next thing you want to do once your waistband is sewn is to quarter it. So you're going to take the seam and put it on one side and make it flat, and then on the edge you're going to sew, use your chalk, finally, to mark that edge. Then put the seam and that chalk mark together, and that's going to give you the other 2 quarters. So then mark the edge you're going to sew on both sides. Now that both the skirt and the waistband are quartered, turn the skirt right side out, and you'll want to put the waistband over the skirt. So you have this finished edge and then you have the raw edges. You want to put raw edges matching with the skirt's raw edges. And you want the seam in the back to match up with the skirt seam as well. And if you can match the direction of the seam, extra points. So I usually begin at the back seam, or whatever seam you put in it. And you want to make sure that when you're going to serge this together that you catch all 3 layers of fabric, 2 of the waistband and 1 of the skirt. So I'm going to cut, I left about 1/2 inch of seam allowance. So you just want to start your seam, and then just enough to hold it down, and then you want to see where your pin is. You're going to stretch just the waistband, not the skirt. So stretch the waistband a little bit to fit the skirt, hold that, and then sew. All right, so I finished the convertible straps. I put 2 darts. You can probably see where the lines right here and right here. And then I crossed them over to line up the stripes in the middle. And now I've measured to make sure this is going to cover side seam to side seam. It does. And now it's time to put it onto the dress. So I just want to show you this because I think it's going to be easier that way. What I have done is I went through and took the back seam, since there's only one, and marked the front of the waistband here, and then put those 2 marks, the seam and the front mark, together, and then marked the side seams. And now that lets me know that each side of my convertible strap needs to hit a side seam, and the center front should be at the center front. So right sides together, I'm taking my front piece and I'm taking the exact center front here. Well, it's as exact as it needs to be. And I'm going to pin that to my mark for the center front of the waistband. I'm going to take my mark here, right there, and put the very end to it. So that I know, actually, I'm going to pass it a little bit by about 1 inch because the side seam, I just want to make it go just a little further around the back. Just put a little inch, and then I'm going to make sure I do the same amount over here by measuring it, comparing it to the other. Then I am going to put it on the serger the same way that I did the waistband. I'm going to put the top down, start at one side, and then stretch the waistband to meet the edge of the top as I go. So when you're done with that, you're done. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you liked it and that you love your new dress. If you have questions, please contact me at the following address.